Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, April the 9th, the 100th day of the year. There are 266 days left in the year 2024, and welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Thom. The Melton Scholars, heard of them? Well, if you haven't, you will. The Melton Scholars are 12 freshmen at Auburn University in a new program named for former Georgia Supreme Court Justice Harold Melton, who excelled in his undergraduate days at Auburn University and became the first Black SGA president while a student. The Melton Scholars Program provides, in addition to financial assistance, support, academic advising, career development, cultural experiences, and more. The Melton Scholars Program was started by Auburn alum Michael Waller and his wife, Betsy. The program is designed to provide support and engagement to first-year college students who mostly are the first in their family to attend college, like many of us were, and I certainly was. Halfway through its first year, I've witnessed a growth in these young people who have no previous experience with Auburn University, no legacy experience, no athletic scholarships, and so on and so forth. It's about providing the resources to uplift the students' personal and leadership development. I've been fortunate to be a part of the program, and I can tell you it is a program that works and has been sorely needed at Auburn University. Our G-List guests today are three of the Melton Scholars, Blaze Coda, Jalen Wilson, and Kelsey Liptrot, and their advisor and the founder of the Melton Scholars, Michael Waller. The very fact that Auburn has such a program brings a smile to my face. I look forward to the discussion. Our show today, of course, is sponsored by the Best Girl Consulting Firm. Let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Best Girl customizes the solution that fits your needs. So let's get to our roundtable regulars, Barbara Wallace-Edwards and Michael Walker. Good morning, Barbara Wallace-Edwards.
Good morning, Thom. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great, man. I feel better. I finally got over that cold.
Good.
So everything's great with me. How about you?
I'm doing so much better. I'm pretty much back to 100% now, like you. I had bronchitis and sinusitis. So finally over that and feeling 1,000 times better.
Tell me this, because everybody was going crazy. I was riding my bicycle through the neighborhood yesterday, and the people go, "You gonna watch the eclipse?" It's like, no.
I didn't either.
Okay.
I didn't either. The pollen was still pretty heavy out, and I've been avoiding going outside. I'm trying to stay well. So I didn't go outside at all. I've watched it a little bit on TV. They were showing some visuals on TV, but I didn't step outside the door other than take something to the trash can. So I didn't watch it.
What's happening in your world?
Well, Thom, I want to start by saying congratulations to the University of South Carolina and Coach Don Staley for winning the women's NCAA National Championship. There was a lot of basketball played over the weekend, and both the men and the women's championship games were played. So also congratulations to UConn. We've already had one of our friends who lives in South Carolina, friends of Tuesdays with Thom, Mr. Antley Staten, who has already touched base with us and said he wanted to make sure we congratulated his team. So that's what I wanted to take care of first thing this morning.
Well, I'll even go further than that and say I pretty much watched every minute of the women's tournament.
Yes.
And not 1 minute of the men's tournament.
I did catch the last few minutes of the men's tournament. I figured UConn was going to win that one, so I didn't watch the entire game. But yeah, I'm like you. I was glued to the TV watching the women's game. That was an exciting exciting game.
I
think
tell you what, and I know they're talking about Caitlin Clark being the first round draft pick, and I think that's partially because of who has the pick, which is Indiana, which is in Middle America, which will probably do well. But if I was choosing, I'd get that big girl from South Carolina.
Cardosa. Yeah, she was awesome.
Man. She was tough.
Absolutely. And can you imagine, Thom? Coach Staley built that team. I mean, she lost all of her starters from last year. So this was a brand new starting lineup for her, and to go totally undefeated this year and to win a national championship, that is huge. I was just so proud and happy for her and their team. They're great.
They were, and I wish them well, and I'm sure she'll reload and come back again next year.
Yes.
And I was surprised when LSU played Iowa.
Well, yes.
Because this is my opinion. I just thought it was a poor coaching job by LSU.
Yes.
Because you put a 5'4" girl on the best player Iowa had.
Right.
She couldn't cover that girl.
That's what I said. I don't understand Kim Mulkey's decision on that one, to put her smallest player on Caitlin. That was a bad coaching decision. And Lith, I think is a young lady's name that was covering her.
She's in the transfer portal.
She's entered the transfer portal. She was so hurt and, I guess upset with herself, and said that she thought she should have played better, but I think that was just a bad coaching decision.
She did as good a job as she could do. I mean, you need somebody bigger and maybe a little faster, a better athlete.
Right.
So that when she goes up and you go up, you could partially block her vision.
Exactly.
That didn't happen.
That's exactly what Coach Staley did with putting Raven Johnson on her. Raven covered Caitlin very well. At the second half of that game, Caitlin Clark was pretty much shut down. So that's what it takes. And I think Mulkey made a bad decision.
I'll listen to you and Michael, because you guys were the volunteer coaches for Auburn, and you've got all kinds of coaching experience now. So
we're gonna say Michael has.
Let's get him on. Let him tell us about his experience. Michael Walker, how are you, man?
I'm doing well, TG. How are you this morning?
I heard that Kim Mulkey's gonna bring you in to run the camp for next year at LSU.
She needs him.
Yeah, I'd probably make some wholesale changes too in the game plan. Good morning to you, Barbara.
I just thought putting a smaller girl on the best player didn't work.
Yeah, I would agree with you as well. Not only was she smaller, she wasn't as fast, as fleet of foot as you needed to be with someone like Caitlin. Caitlin's about 6 foot tall, and although she's not really big from a size standpoint, but the height, and she's fairly quick and agile. So like you said, Thom, you needed somebody that was bigger, had a longer reach, and was also quick on the feet to kind of cut it off. Because, basketball is a game of angles and stuff. Right. And so you have to take those angles and stuff to stop people. So, yeah, unfortunately, bad choice.
You and Barbara, I guess you guys will be coaching again next year.
That's our plan. We don't know which game yet, but that's our plan. Coach Harris said we can come back anytime we want to, so we're going to take advantage of that.
Michael, what you got for us this morning?
Well, I have a couple things. It's funny how government offices, entities that are created to help the citizens of their community is supposed to do things to help them. But nowadays you find that they don't really do that. Case in point, Joanne Gibson. She's the owner of a daycare center in Cleveland, Ohio. She was at her daycare center and she received a $105 speeding ticket while she was at her daycare center, and her car was on the back of a flatbed truck being hauled away because of mechanical failure. those are looks on your faces.
Yeah,
explain that
I'm
one.
waiting for the explanation.
Right.
Well, evidently what happened was she had car trouble. She called a tow truck to pick her car up to take it to the shop. She went to a daycare center and the tow truck was speeding. And you know how they have those cameras and stuff. And so they got a picture of her license plate, evidently, and she received a ticket. And she said, wait a minute, I was at my daycare center. My car was on a flatbed truck, and she went to the city, to talk about it.
Right.
They told her to refute it with the private company that operates the camera.
Oh my God.
Wow.
You got to be kidding me.
No. And that's what I mean by these governmental offices that are not doing anything for the citizens or the taxpayers. Now, why should she have, but they're charging her for the $105. They issued a ticket based on the camera. And when she talked to them about it and explained, and she had documentation that she wasn't in her vehicle.
Right.
Then they said, go take it up with the private company that operates the camera.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yes, it is.
Yes. And while we're talking about basketball, Caitlin Clark is a phenomenal player, and rightly so. She deserves the accolades that she's receiving. However, the record that she broke, the modern day record, is one of Lynette Woodward, and Lynette Woodward is being slammed because she pointed out the differences of when she played and Caitlin. And primarily is that they didn't have a 3-point shot line. So, a lot of Caitlin's shots are from threes. And so she's saying, but, yes, she broke my record, so to speak, but you can't make a fair comparison because of the different eras. One, I was playing where there was not a 3-point line. Two, we were playing with men basketballs, she was shooting with, whereas nowadays it's been adapted to because women have smaller hands for the most part. So they have a smaller basketball and they're playing from the 3-point line. And so she's taking heat because she, is not saying that, hey, all hats off to Caitlin, and she's just pointing it out. And I can understand. She said, for 43 years, I was in isolation. Nobody even talked about this. Right. So people, it's interesting. And as I read that, I understand how some people are saying that she's bitter or she should have been more gracious in that and welcomed that. But on the other hand, if you have never been swept under the rug, so to speak, and ignored for your accomplishments, and then when someone later on comes up, all of a sudden, and we have a society of living in the moment, okay? But now all of a sudden, this person is the greatest ever, and you had a more difficult time from a standpoint of technicality, being a 3-point line and the male basketball. And so I see both sides of the issues, but I don't think Lynette should be. I
can't even tell you who Lynette Woodward played for.
Yeah.
Who she played for?
I don't remember. I think it was somewhere in the Midwest.
Okay.
I think it was a school in the Midwest. I want to say Kansas or somewhere like that is what I want to say.
Well, and it's different too. Today a lot of the NBA players, they score 60 points, 70 points a game, but they got the 3-point shot.
Right.
Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points.
Yes. And didn't have that.
Some of those guys back then, Michael Jordan would score 60 points, and they didn't have a 3-point line.
Right.
Now, I think Jordan had the 3-point line. I think he did. But, that you bring up an interesting subject when you talk about Michael Jordan. He's looked upon as the greatest of all time, the best ever to do it. And whenever they want to talk about Jordan in comparison to LeBron James, they talk about Jordan never lost an NBA championship. He got 6 rings. I think LeBron maybe have 5 or whatever it is. But, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, I think, and a couple other people say, well, if you want to talk about championships, Bill Russell had 13.
Right.
So what about that? So I think, it depends on the person who is speaking, and it's so funny. And Jerry Rest and I agree on this. They're saying that if you say, for instance, and I use an example, our fellow alum, Charles Barkley or Karl Malone, the mailman. They were both great players. First ballot Hall of Famers. Charles was in the top 50 of greatest players, but they're saying they're on a lower level because they never won a championship. And so in order to be considered one of the best ever, you got to win a championship. Well, I sit there and I think about it. I say, well, so you telling me that somebody that sat on the bench of the Bulls team is a better player than Karl Malone or Charles
No.
because they won a championship by riding the pine. Come on now, you know.
And I'll say this, man, it is very, very difficult to win a championship.
I'm sure.
You got to be good,
right?
Have good coaching, and you got to have some luck, you know. And I can tell you, we one year we won more SEC games than any other team in the SEC, but we didn't win the championship because Alabama played one more SEC game than we played, because we always played Georgia Tech and they had gotten out of the SEC.
Okay.
So we didn't get the championship because they had the championship. So, you know, it's just very, very, a lot of things have to happen for you to be a champion.
That's true.
And you can always be a champion in your head.
Right.
Barbara, what else you got, Barbara?
Well, Thom, I talked about Tuskegee University last week and a grant that they received. Well, they got additional good news this week. They just announced that they received a $20 million gift to support the university's STEM programs and variety of campus enhancements. And this came from an anonymous donor. So congratulations to Tuskegee. This is the second $20 million donation they received in the last 4 years. So this is huge for them. So they're really on the rise right now.
Well, Tuskegee was one of my alma maters as well. So,
okay. I didn't realize that.
Well, I spent a lot of time at Tuskegee. I didn't actually go to class.
Okay. I was going to say, you got an honorary degree from down there. just from visits to campus.
I went back home to Birmingham and I'd run into people and they said, man, you went to Tuskegee, didn't you? I said, well, kind of. You know,
yeah, with it being so close to Auburn, a lot of people went to spend a lot of time in Tuskegee.
Michael, what else you got, brother?
Well, one other situation, and we've talked about this before. There's a widow that's been forced out of her home of 20 years after she was looking for help. Her husband died suddenly, left her. She's a school teacher. She drives a bus. She's raising their 2 grandchildren, and she was having some difficulties making ends meet. And a family friend introduced her to a guy that worked at a company that said they could help her by modifying her mortgage loan and easing some of the financial burden, freeing up some cash flow, and said that she didn't have to sign anything. And this is the thing that stuck out in my mind that I would have thought was a problem. This person said he was going to borrow some money against the house in order to, like, maybe, and she probably thought it was like a HELOC loan, you know, or equity loan, or what have you. Well, long story short, in the process of doing this and filling out the paperwork, she somehow unknowingly must have signed a quit claim deed, because now this company owns her house. And a judge evicted her, saying that she owed the company $19,000 and they own the house. Wow. And now she's out, you know. And the funny thing is, they label her as a squatter in her own house.
Wow.
So she doesn't have, I guess, adult children that could fend for her.
Yeah. And, you know, more importantly than that, somebody that has a legal mind and understands the law that could advise her on this. And, you know, it's always, you know, hindsight is 20/20, but it would have behooved her if she had somebody else look at that was familiar with the mortgage industry, real estate, and the law, basically.
Absolutely.
That's horrible.
Yeah. It is horrible.
Yeah. Barbara, you got anything else?
No, Thom, I don't think I have anything else.
Hey, Michael, you got anything else?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to move on. And I think Sean's got a minute for us. Sean, you out there?
morning to everyone joining in with us. My name is Shantia Jones, and this is Got a Minute. It's National Poetry Month, a celebration founded by the Academy of American Poets with input from other nonprofit poetry organizations and publishers. The original aim remains today to create a time-bound occasion in which we might work together to spotlight poets and poetry. Many publishers take advantage of the month to release their poetry titles. Many libraries and schools celebrate the art form with special events that inspire young people to engage with poetry, some for the first time. More and more, National Poetry Month has become an event to inspire the next generation of readers, with thousands of grade school and high school students participating in Poem in Your Pocket Day, which is April 21st this year, and other educational projects. The hope has always been that this increased visibility of poetry might spark an interest in readers that would carry forward into the rest of the year and even last a lifetime.
It started with a sweater.
I was looking fly. First day of college orientation as a freshman, and I'm the type of guy who's always trying to make a good impression.
He looked like a tool. And it's the first week of school, so I've got people to meet and things to try. I don't have time to waste on this guy loitering backstage at a talent show.
It started with a freshman talent show, a chance to...
Thank you all for joining in. My name is Shantia Jones, and this has Got a Minute.
All right, then. So I'm going to move on. If you guys don't have anything else, let's go to our G list. Hollywood's got the A list, and here on Tuesdays with Thom, we got the G list. Now, G list guests today are here are the Melton Scholars and their advisor and founder, Michael Waller. The Melton Scholars with us today are Blaze Cota from Montgomery, Alabama, Jalen Wilson from Birmingham, Alabama, and Kelsey Liptrot from Birmingham, Alabama. Let's see. Michael Waller, who is the founder of the Melton Scholars, is an Auburn graduate. He spent many of his professional years abroad. He started this program as a means of giving back to the university who he feels gave him so much. Scholars with us today are Kelsey Liptrot from Birmingham, Ramsey High School, who is studying speech, language, and hearing science. Blaze Cota from Montgomery, Alabama, a pre-aerospace engineering major, and Jalen Wilson, a Birmingham pre-civil engineering major. They're all special, and I feel lucky to be working with them. So let's welcome them to the show. Good morning, you all.
Good morning.
How are we doing? Everybody good?
Yes, sir.
Hey, well, Michael, I'm going to start with you, Michael Waller, not Michael Walker, but Michael Waller. You guys' names are too close to each other. So, Michael, let me give us some background on the Melton Scholars and how you came to do this and where you are in the program now.
Well, thank you, Thom. It's always great to be with you and your all-star cast here this morning. It's a great way to start a Tuesday, so thank you for having us. My wife and I, as we approach retirement a few years back, we're very intentional about our desire to support higher education in areas that were close to our heart, Auburn being a piece of us that had carried through for many, many years. And to do so in ways that engage with students who may have faced some of the same things that we faced in our years living overseas. There were more than one occasion where my wife and I would be the only person in a room who either looked like us or spoke our language or could relate to the people around us. When I was serving as the CEO of our company in Indonesia, for example, I had a workforce of about 10,000 people, 98% of them Muslim, and about 20 of them spoke English. And trying to lead in an environment like that and be effective in an environment like that was particularly challenging. Fast forward to the time when we started thinking about this kind of work at Auburn. And Auburn makes a promise to all students who come to this university, and that's a promise that we think is a worthy one, and that is to produce graduates who are capable of leading, not just participating or contributing to, but leading in a cross-cultural environment. And we believe that programs like the Melton Scholars Program, these students individually and collectively are making a contribution to Auburn's promise to all students that come to this university by virtue of what they do and the engagement that they have, not only within their scholars group, but beyond. And we're very proud of what they are doing, both individually and collectively. And we believe they will make a big contribution to delivering on that promise that the university makes to all students who come to Auburn. So we live 10 minutes away from campus here at Auburn. We engage with these students socially and otherwise try to stay out of their way, let them do their work. But it's been a real joy for us to engage with them and to support them in any way we can. So
let's go and hear from each of the students before we come back to questions. So Kelsey, how are you this morning? Tell us a little bit about Kelsey Liptrot.
I'm doing good, Tom. My name is Kelsey. I'm from Birmingham. I went to Ramsey High School. Like you said, my major is speech, language, and hearing sciences. With my degree, I hope to become a pediatric speech pathologist. I've always wanted a job of helping others, and especially kids, because I feel like I can really work well with kids more so than adults. And so this profession just seems to be perfect for me. I've been loving it here at Auburn since I came. I've really found a community, one with organizations, and two with the Melton Scholars have really helped me build a community and support system. So I'm so grateful for this program.
What's been your biggest surprise?
Probably this program, if I'm being honest. Coming in as a freshman, I never thought, especially at such a prestigious school like Auburn, I never thought that I would be in a program like this. Like, this program offers so much more than just financial aid. It offers professional development. It offers a community. It offers an abundance of knowledge on culture and diversity and equity and inclusivity. Like, it offers so much. And so being a part of this program honestly probably was my biggest surprise, because like I said, I never thought that I would be a part of an amazing program like this so early on in my freshman year.
Well, you and let's go to Jalen, but you and Jalen both went to Ramsey. Yeah. I went to John Carroll when it was around the corner from Ramsey. Ramsey was one of our big rivals. So welcome to Auburn. So Jalen, tell us a little bit about you.
So as you said, I'm Jalen. I'm majoring in civil engineering. And with that, I'm looking into getting into community development. So I recently went to the American Society of Civil Engineers career fair and got to talk to some of the employers, because I'm kind of trying to figure out like what concentration I want to go into. So that stuck out with me with like community development and helping. Like, I really want to make an impact in infrastructure, especially in cities like Birmingham, like across the country that are not as developed or don't have like sources of income or revenue. Just being a part of building that infrastructure and helping like to grow communities like the ones I came from. So yeah, that's what I plan to do after I graduate.
So many people go to college and they end up making lifelong friends, but they didn't know a whole lot of people when they got to college. Mm-hmm. How is it having the scholars? You guys have your own little family within the family. So how does that work for you guys?
Yes, having Melton Scholars has been very great. It's like helped me make friends coming in and like expand to seeing people from different backgrounds. Like, we've learned how like skills, like Kelsey said, so many skills as to learning to connect with people other than things like that are physical traits, like learning to identify our personality traits and how we can collaborate together, what our strengths and weaknesses are. So that's been really great, having them just like go to the dining hall with, study with, like, we see each other on campus all the time, and it's just like, it's helpful to see a familiar face or someone that you know when you're walking to class and be like, Like we go to each other's events and things. Like Kelsey hosted the General Assembly for Black Student Union last week, and everyone came. So it's kind of like you feel like you have something like a piece of home here with you with the Melton Scholars.
Very good.
You know, Tom, one comment just before you go to Blaze, because Jalen's too humble to say anything about this, but as you know, this is a big year for elections around the world. Lots of democracies are having elections, and Jalen just went through an election here a little bit ago, and why don't you tell them about that process?
So we recently had an election in the National Society of Black Engineers, and we had to present our platforms, and I was elected to be the Vice President of Leadership Development for the Auburn chapter. So we've been doing transitions, and we just had applications for directors. So I just got my director, and I have to do like one-on-one meetings. So we're just kind of transitioning, and I'll be over the freshman leadership development program. So kind of like how my mentors are pouring into me, I'll be able to pour into the freshmen next year that come in for engineering, and it's like pretty much their leadership development to help develop for incoming freshmen to be involved in NSBE. So I was in it this year, and next year I'll be over it. So that's pretty cool.
Well, that's wonderful. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Congratulations. You guys, I'm one of the advisors to this program. You guys are making me look good. Blaze, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Blaze came to one of my talks to the advancement group. So Blaze, tell me, I learned a lot about you from the last time we were together. So you're from Montgomery. Tell us about you and how you ended up at Auburn and in this program.
Well, Montgomery is only about 45, 50 minutes away from Auburn. So a lot of people, the school I went to, a lot of people end up going to Auburn. Auburn's a very popular place. And I had a lot of friends who were planning to go to Auburn as well. And now that I'm talking like this, it makes it sound like I was just a sheep. I just followed everyone else to Auburn. That's not actually what happened. I wanted to be an aerospace engineer. That's what I wanted to study. And I knew Auburn had a terrific engineering program. And so I just thought, well, Auburn has a good, really, really good engineering program. And I have a lot of friends who are going to Auburn as well. Just seemed like a win-win opportunity for me. So, and I actually got lucky. I ended up rooming with 3 people I played baseball with at my high school. So, yeah, that's kind of my story from Montgomery to Auburn.
Okay, well let let Barbara and Michael join here. Barbara, you up?
Yes. Good morning, guys.
Good
morning.
I want to start with Michael. Michael, thank you so much for you and your wife implementing this program at Auburn. I think it's so important. I wish there was something like this in place when I was a student at Auburn. But I wanted to ask you about the selection process and the application process. How do students who are interested in it, or is it something that they implement, or something that you all just select them based on applications? Talk about that whole process.
Sure, Barbara. Well, this class is the inaugural class, and so we don't have a lot of history to look at here. But the selection process starts post-admission. So once students have been accepted to Auburn, and they start going through the scholarship application process to support them going through, this is one of the options that is hopefully made available to them and communicated to them for those who want to try to find financial aid or other aid. And so the scholarship office partners with the Office of Inclusion and Equity and Diversity, which will be named or redeployed in some way after 129. Right. They'll get all that worked out. But anyway, we have a set of standards that my wife and I put in place just to sort of say, look, we give preference to those who are first generation, who come from areas that are perhaps underserved economically or otherwise in the state, sort of consistent with what Auburn tries to do in outreach to all 67 counties in the state. I'll be honest with you, our publicity, our outreach is in the formative years. Right. We need to do a better job of letting people know about this scholarship. When we first started this scholarship work, I'll tell you how far behind we were. My wife called 165 guidance counselors in the state of Alabama to tell them about this about the program, and they would have otherwise never known about it. But hopefully we're developing an infrastructure that will be a lot more proactive about that process. What we hope to do is build a pipeline of applicants who can then be selected and get us a good, diverse, well-rounded class each and every year, because at maturity, this program will have 40 students in it. So 10 students per year, every year. And, these guys that are sitting with me this morning will be somewhat mentors to the class behind them. And as they matriculate through this program, they'll develop skills. As you know, Barbara, wisdom doesn't come in boulders. It usually comes in flakes. Yes. And sort of put together over time to make sense of all that. And that's what we're trying to do with this program. And so hopefully all that combined, the standards we set, the university scholarship office and the DEI office, all working together to select a good, well-rounded class.
Excellent. Thank you.
Let me say Michael Waller. We got two Michaels here. Michael Waller, while we congratulate you, I would probably be remiss if I don't congratulate Betsy as well, your wife, who's part of this. And I see when I said her name, all the young people nodded. Yeah. So, Betsy, thank you so much for what you're doing and for supporting the whole program. It's just wonderful. So, Michael Walker, it's on you, bud.
Well, thank you. Let me say good morning, Michael Waller, my brother from another mother. And our three students that we have here. First off, one of your advisors, Kenneth Kelly, is listening in, and he's saying good morning to everybody and talking about the engineering program at Auburn. And he did admit that he's experienced and biased about it, but be that as it may. Michael, I want to first off congratulate you and say thank you for your efforts. And what's interesting is all three of your students, as well as yourself, have mentioned diversity, inclusion, and all of that. And you are really doing what DEI is supposed to do. So I want to commend you for doing that and taking those steps, as well as your wife, Betsy. So thank you for that. I want to say to the students, I'm very proud of you. Congratulations, Jalen, for being elected in a leadership position and what have you. And from a question standpoint, I'll start with Blaze. Blaze, give me your opinion or how you feel about the eclipse and what happened yesterday, since you're in aerospace engineering.
Well, I actually went outside for like the whole 2 hours and just sat and watched it because it just fascinates me. There was also an eclipse a couple years ago, I think it was 2017, yes, where like a 30-minute drive north of Montgomery, there was like 97% coverage, and it was so cool for me to watch. And ask my family, ask my friends. I'm a huge space nut. That's what I want to do with my degree in aerospace. I want to work on space aircraft. I want to work on just stuff in space. And so the eclipse to me, it was so cool to watch. And I probably irritated my friends a little bit because I was just kind of gushing. Oh, look, now it's going that way. And now look, you can see this part of the sun. And so, yeah.
Well, did you have the special glasses? Because from what I understand, there were some glasses that may not have been up to code and what have you. What kind of glasses did you have?
So yeah, I would not recommend using anything other than the special eclipse glasses, because my friend tried to look at them with just regular sunglasses, and one, he couldn't see the eclipse because the sun is very bright, and two, he was complaining about black spots in his eyes for the rest of the day. He was staring at the sun. So, you know, I just had some glasses that my friend picked up from Sanford Lawn. They had a whole bunch of eclipse watching stations set up all around campus. So he just picked up a pair of glasses from there, and me and him shared them, and we got to watch it. They're actually really cool how they work. So I don't want to bore you too much with the science.
I like some of those glasses as well.
I listened to an interview yesterday of one of the world experts on solar eclipses who's seen every total eclipse since 1972. And he said that every solar eclipse has a unique signature to it, that the aura around the moon that you can see is like a fingerprint. Mm-hmm. And he can look at a picture of any solar eclipse from over the last 20 years and tell you when it was and where it was. So wow, there's some expertise to be developed there, I think.
There's some very exact science behind solar. I mean, they have every single year there's going to be a solar eclipse mapped out until the year 3000. That's how exact mathematically solar eclipses happen. So
I want y'all to notice when Blaze talks, it's like this. We make those points. You know, he's a judo expert. He's a Japanese American, and so when he's doing that, sort of keep your distance.
Okay, we'll do that then. Jalen, I wanted to ask you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say I only mess with people I don't like, and I like.
So we're safe. Thank you, Blaze.
Right. Jalen, I thought it was quite admirable. You said that you went into civil engineering because of your desire and need to help design communities that will help people in that particular area. And I was going to ask this question to Michael, but I'll ask you first. You know, in a lot of urban cities, they talk about food deserts and what have you. Could you tell me what your perspective is and how you can utilize your civil engineering degree to create a livable community that will help solve that problem of food desert? And Michael, you're free to join in because you have worked in that area as well.
So that's actually interesting because my senior year, I participated in this program called Youth in Peace and Action, and we were talking about how things like that can affect interactions with how people build peace in their communities and how we can restore the peace in our communities. And we talked about there are several food deserts in Birmingham, seen as it's so many different sectors in Birmingham. So with civil engineering, there's different disciplines with as far as transportation. So that's one way that you can make things accessible to people who are in food deserts, as well as I kind of want to just learn what the guidelines and codes of where things like grocery stores can be built. It's very specific, a lot of things that you have to be able to learn because you can't just throw buildings wherever you would like to throw them. So just try to figure out how we can be innovative in utilizing spaces that wouldn't normally be used to distribute foods, places that being more unconventional with how we can do that and be more creative. I'm a very creative person, so I kind of wanted to mesh those things together with my civil engineering, kind of figuring out how can we place these things and maybe near schools or near programs. I don't know if you know programs that donate the food into the schools where the kids are the ones who are funneling the foods into their homes, maybe if their mom or dad or their parents are at work, so they won't be able to come to certain events to be able to access those, making them where they're accessible through different avenues, not just the traditional grocery stores. So yeah.
Okay, great. Michael, you have something you want to add?
Well, first of all, I'd love to partner with Jalen on something like this. I'm sure we could do some good together beyond this time. But what I will say about that Michael, is that the solution to the kind of problem that you framed up, I think, demands both technical expertise, engineering expertise, but also cross-disciplinary visibility and expertise. Understanding that, as Jaylyn sort of outlined, the solution to that problem is going to require not only some innovative, low-cost engineering, high impact, but also some social engineering. Creating density around grocery stores is critical to maintaining what is otherwise a very low margin business. So the grocery store business is about a 3 to 4% margin business. So you got to sell a lot of stuff to be profitable. And so the one thing that I think Auburn has the ability to do beyond most colleges and universities is to graduate students that not only have expertise in the classrooms that they attend, but also some insight cross-disciplinary wise that allows them to sort of ask the right questions, be curious in a very constructive way, and understand what they don't understand in a way that brings in the expertise that's needed to bring about the structural change that's necessary in some of these big challenges that you outlined. And so I think Auburn's leadership capabilities that sort of are in the air around here that we try to bring out through these programs to raise their visibility amongst the students beyond their area of study is one of the things we're trying to accomplish with this program.
Okay, great. And Kelsey, I'm not going to leave you out. I know that you talked about going into speech language pathology, and it was because of your desire to help people with some hearing disabilities, and in particularly kids. I know that in a lot of areas, in particular in the state of Alabama, there are some people that are not only underserved, but maybe underinsured. And you have people that are born with hearing defects, or people that end up losing their hearing as they go, but they are not able to get treatment because of, if you will, a health desert, not having access to health care. Have you thought about how you might be able to help those people from lower income areas, or people that may be on Medicaid and stuff, to get something to help them? Because hearing aids are very, very expensive. Have you thought about that?
Well, I want to particularly take the route of speech rather than hearing. And currently this semester, I started shadowing at a therapy and learning center here in Auburn, and they have speech therapy and occupational therapy. And in order to even be in speech therapy, you have to get a letter from your pediatrician for kids. So if they have pediatricians, they have to get a letter from your pediatrician, or if you're an adult, you have to get a letter from your doctor to even be able to see a speech pathologist. And there is a difference between developmental and acquired speech disorders. Developmental is something that you were kind of born with, either happened in the womb or it happened in your first stages of life, whether it's cerebral palsy or anything that can affect you communicating. And then you have acquired speech disorders or communication disorders that can happen from, say, a stroke, or you have some type of brain injury and your speech comes from the left side of your brain. And so things like that happen. And sometimes some doctors or some people's parents feel as if their kids don't need speech therapy. It's not necessary, but there is so much more to speech than just, oh, I have a stutter, or I'm dyslexic, I can't write well. It's about communication. You have people who have some disorders where it's called aphasia, I think, where they're speaking words and they think that they make sense, but to other people, it's not making any sense at all. They're just speaking words. And so with the healthcare system, I hadn't really thought about ways to fix it, because it's dependent on doctors and pediatricians, if whether or not they think that their patient needs speech therapy, because I cannot see patients. Like when I get the job, I will not be able to see patients unless they were referred to me. So it kind of more falls on doctors if they recommend speech therapy or occupational therapy. That part is kind of out of my hands, because clients just cannot go to speech therapy usually and say, or insurance won't cover it. And that's the only way for most people to do it, because it is very expensive out of pocket, unfortunately. And like you said, cochlear implants or hearing aids are very expensive. And really the best way to do it is insurance. But if the person's doctor or pediatrician doesn't give them a referral to go see an audiologist or a speech pathologist, insurance won't pay for it. So.
Okay. So we have to fix the insurance system and educate the doctors.
And also, if insurance is paying for something, like for example, in the clinic that I shadow with, they do this thing called feeding therapy, because some kids who maybe have autism have certain dislikes about food and things, whether it's the texture, they don't want to touch it. And a lot of kids struggle to get the nutritional values that they need because they have such like sensitivities to textures and foods and stuff that they like won't eat. And there's one specific kid who I've been seeing a lot recently, and he's kind of regressed in his feeding therapy. He was doing well at one point, and then he just kind of started backtracking, where he wouldn't eat the foods that he had started eating. And you, as a speech pathologist, after you see each patient, you have to write a document after and submit it saying that what were your goals for your kid? Did they meet those goals? What are your next goals for your next appointment? And if you keep putting on your documents, he's not doing so well in feeding therapy, insurance will see that, and then they'll stop paying for it. So that's also a thing that happens with a lot of patients. If no progress is being made, or progress was being made and then it stopped being made after like a couple months or so, insurance will stop paying for it, because then they don't see a need for it anymore if it's not working.
Wow.
Okay. Let's, Barbara, let me come back to you again before we go back to Michael Waller and move to the next segment.
Okay. Michael, you have put together a very impressive advisory board. Would you talk about who's on that board? And also, second question I have for you is, people who are watching the show today who may be impressed with what you put together here, like I am, how can they make a donation? Are you accepting additional donations to the scholarship fund, or what do you need? What else do you need?
Well, thank you for asking that question, Barbara, and I'll address that after I talk a little bit about the advisory board members. I recruited the members of this board because of their energy and their interest in this program as a whole, and everybody comes at it from a little different direction, which is part of the beauty of this advisory panel. I started with Harold Melton because I had been introduced to Harold before I knew him, and I knew of his reputation. And as you know, at or around the time that the Student Affairs building was named for Harold, there was a scholarship set up for Harold, or in Harold's name, by some of his friends. And so I called Harold and I said, well, why don't we think about putting together what's going on for you individually with something a little bit larger that would not only have additional financial support, but also be programmatic behind it. And that sparked an interest in Harold's mind, because he too was struggling with, how do we make financial aid put flesh on that in a way that increases the chances of success overall for these students. And so as we started talking about that, and then we recruited Trip Haston, who was about a 1991 graduate of the university. He teaches here. He's a lawyer in Birmingham, who also has a great passion for expanding the diversity in our university and what that does for our community at large. And then Kenneth Kelly, all of you know Kenneth. I mean, it seems like everybody knows Kenneth. Almost anywhere you go on the campus. Right. He's been deeply engaged in these efforts across multiple areas, mainly in the engineering area, but also more broadly. And he has been a critically important thought partner for us, because he's kind of been down this road a lot of different ways and a lot of different areas, both in terms of his professional experience at Alabama Power and elsewhere, but also now with the bank that he runs up in Detroit. He's got broad industry expertise, and he and I have become good friends. And his investment in time and resources and visibility to the professional community has been very, very helpful. And then, of course, your co-host here, Mr. Gossam, has also had a history here that is very unique and very rich. And one aspect that we haven't talked about in this program yet is the Thom Award.
Yes.
That all these scholars are eligible to apply for. And as I look around this campus and I see a memorial here, a memorial there to people who've done something significant for Auburn, I didn't see that statue of Thom. I said, well, we need to do something here to honor this man's service to our university. So each of the scholars can, over the course of their 4 years, the Thom Award will be given to the scholar, the Melton Scholar, who excels in courage, curiosity, athletics, and the arts. And it sort of picks up Thom's career in many ways. They have 4 years to do it. They have to submit an essay. The essays will be graded by the advisory board, and those who excel in those areas at the top will be awarded, given the award and presented with a check for $4,900. Y'all understand the significance of that. And so there's some financial support for it there too. So we are working to get to the second part of your question, Barbara. We're working with the advancement department. The Melton Scholars Program is an identifiable program within the advancement team, and they're out aggressively soliciting contributions. This program is designed so that people who want to put a scholarship in their name somehow, they can do that and just have the beneficiary of their scholarship be a Melton Scholar as soon as they go through the process. So we've made presentations to the Black Alumni Council, to the Alumni Association, to a number of different interest groups, and made it clear that this is kind of an open source platform. I can use that term, so that people who may want to together, do something for the program. This program costs about $500,000 a year, $500,000 per class.
Okay.
To move forward in the way, so that the 4 years for these 10 students, that's $500,000. So to do the next class, we have to have $500,000 of what the advancement people call spendable money. I didn't know that was kind of money, but apparently there's spendable endowment. And so we're well on the way to doing that, and we think that we're going to continue to build support for it because the students, the benefit is they get $10,000 a year for each of their 4 years towards their tuition and stuff, and then the balance, the other $100,000 balance, is used to support travel and supplemental programs that all together contribute to what they experience here over their 4 years. So call the advancement. Rob Wellbaum and Kurt Sasser at the in the advancement areas are our two leaders there, and they're have been very helpful to us.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, well, Michael and Kelsey and Blaze and Jalen, thank you so much for being with us. It's been wonderful, and I've enjoyed being a part of the program. And I look forward to seeing you guys next weekend, not this weekend coming, but the next weekend. I look forward to seeing you and spending some time with you. So thank you all very, very much. We appreciate it. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, my closing comment for today, or as I see it, and I see that Anthony Tedeschi is on here, and not Aunt Leah, and I don't see Laurie, but anyway, this is for them. Lately, I've been going to the TV Guide to follow the television show In the Heat of the Night, primarily because we've got quite a following from one of the In the Heat of the Night groups, mainly the people that I just mentioned. I enjoyed quite a run on that show as a recurring city councilman, Ted Marcus. I did over like 30 episodes over the 4 or 5 years I was working with him. It was quite a start for me. It's not something I saw coming into my life. At the age of 30, I started acting, mainly in theater. in Birmingham Community Theater. I loved doing it. And before long, a good friend of mine, who, believe it or not, was a dentist and an actor, introduced me to his agent in the Atlanta area. The agent agreed to represent me. A quick background story as to how I got on In the Heat of the Night. I got a call to audition for a role of a city councilman on the show In the Heat of the Night. And the city councilman was named Melvin Lemon. And we were shooting that in Covington, Georgia. So I got hired for that job. I did the work with Howard Rollins, who is a fantastic actor and turned into a good friend. And they said that my character may recur, but I didn't hear anything more from him. The next year, my agent called me to tell me that they had put out a call again for a city councilman, but this time his name was Ted Marcus. I said to him, I said, well, why are they trying to give my job to somebody else? And he said to me, well, why don't you tell them that? And it's like, oh, yeah, right. I'm going to go in and tell Carol O'Connor that, ask him why he's giving my job away. So I went to the audition, and when I got called to go into the room and do my read, I stood before Carol O'Connor. Carol opened the door for me, though, by saying, didn't you play the city councilman last year? And I said, yes. And then, I don't know where it came from, but I just blurted it out. So why are you trying to give my job to somebody else? And Carol looked at me and he said, well, you know what? I won't give your job to somebody else. It's your job. I did that show. I did at least 25 more episodes of that show. And looking back now that I've done over 100 productions of film, television, theater, and commercials. And all of that was due to just a little bravery by saying, why are you giving my job to somebody else? And that's our show for today. We want to thank the audience. We really appreciate you. We want to thank our G-List guests, Blaze Coda, Kelsey Liptrock, Jalen Wilson, and Michael Waller. And I want to thank Betsy Waller as well. Thank our sponsor, Best Girl Inc. Thanks again to the TWT team, Barbara, Sean, Emily, and Michael. And that's it on this April the 9th. Remember, a day without a smile is a day wasted. So if you've got an extra smile today, give it to somebody who might need it. Enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe. Peace.